High ball in, and Rayner. Here is Rayner, 20 metres out. No problems for a man of this maturity.
Day, as a Lion, puts one through. And they get to Sam Day, the former son.
This one as well from memory. Around the corner he goes. Nicely done. Collingwood win by 52 points at the Gabba.
It is JB and Patrick back for a week of the Brisbane Lions Fancast, and not often do we have to deal with these at the moment, which is nice, but you could feel this one coming a mile away. That is right, we are coming off the back of a loss, and a pretty big loss. It turned out to be a massive blowout in the end on Easter Thursday. It was certainly a loss we were due to have. A loss that we probably deserved, and as I said, we did see it coming. So here we are. We've got 19 of the last 21 games where we've had nothing but jubilation. This one falls into the category of, well, a big old stinker, Patrick. It was all thanks to Hop On Brewery Tours and crisp communications. Easter Thursday at the Gabba, Brisbane Lions, Collingwood, and a 53 point loss to ruminate on.
I'm just trying to check the date of the last time we recorded after a loss, which also was against Collingwood.
Yep.
Make it 8 months.
Sure, that's fine.
So, and to be honest, I didn't really know how I was going to handle this, because it doesn't happen very often. What a horrible game of football.
It was pretty awful, and as I said, you could see it coming, and we were definitely due. You could sense this team was due for a loss. And in the end, I found myself sitting there in the last quarter going, I'm not too worried about this. I'm not too perturbed. It is a bit of a shame it has blown out, but at the same time, maybe it's not the worst thing to happen as well. I don't know. You know, if we had gone down valiantly and lost by under 10 points or something, maybe they wouldn't have taken it as seriously and learned whatever lessons they need to learn from it. So a blowout was probably definitely in order. And as I said, it's probably what we deserved. We paid absolutely no respect to Nick Daicos, and he showed us up. Pendlebury, side bottom, were free to do whatever they liked, and we could not get away with playing a couple of quarters of footy this week. We got taught a lesson, and here we sit on the other end of it with St Kilda around the corner.
Yeah, it just seemed like we weren't really up for. I mean, we were up for it in certain ways, but just after I, absolutely waxed lyrical last week about our skills, they just vanished when we needed them. Collingwood were pretty good, and I think they did some pretty simple things very well in the game, and a lot of our guys didn't play very well.
Yeah, just to harp back on you saying you thought we were up for it, 38 tackles in a match of footy will tell us that we were not up for it.
Oh, we were up for like the rough and tumble, which was fun, but we didn't back it up with the performance. So, I like a bit of aggro, quite like it. I just like it when it's aggro and it kind of actually matters, because it's a bit.
I take it back.
Bit faux.
38 tackles was the VFL. 28 tackles in an AFL match is well below an acceptable
You just
level.
had your stats all looking at the wrong page.
Well, I thought 38 was alarming. 28 is... sure. Yeah. That'll tell you basically everything you need to know. The inside 50 count as well was just disgusting. But we should give Collingwood their flowers. They were very, very good. They were defensively immaculate. They clogged up the corridor. We did not get our ball movement going one iota. And it showed in the end.
Yep, the clogging of the corridor, and we just couldn't pick our way through. And, they just had... Like, Myercheck always plays really well against us. Like, he just always scores stuff. The ball will hit the boot and go through every freaking time. And, I think we have dealt with being, like, the quote-unquote hunted. But, caught up with us. So,
definitely
story of the game. I forgot to charge my iPad, so I don't have the app. So you'll have to take the lead on this one.
Uh,
I think I've almost blocked it from my memory, but probably worth having a bit of a cheeky look again.
Very similar to the last couple of weeks where we found ourselves in it in the first half without playing amazing football. Nick Daicos was running riot. We finally decided to give him some attention in the third quarter, and Jared Berry sort of went to him. And we were down at 3 goals, give or take, at half-time. That margin then blew out to 42 points by the time third quarter rolled around because we'd taken someone out of our defence to run around with Nick Daicos. It clearly didn't work, so the tag was dropped in the fourth quarter when it was too little too late. But I think the changes from last week, Sam Marshall debut, and in comes Jimmy Tunstall as well. Kai Lohman's still a week away when you read all the media and stuff, but he was interviewed at the Gabba doing some promotional stuff, I think, quarter time. And he said, I hope to see you in a couple of weeks. So I don't know if that was a see you in a couple of weeks here at the Gabba or see you in a couple of weeks. My ankle's probably a little bit worse than we're letting on. So not sure about that one. Maybe I'm just sort of reading into something that's not quite there. But we certainly stacked our midfield rotations with two smaller players.
Yeah, so McLaughlin played in the twos, right?
He did, yes.
Yeah, because it said that he was out with an injury, or was he omitted?
I think he was just dropped.
Right, because Rebs was a hamstring.
Yeah,
because he didn't play twos. But yeah, I don't think we expected it.
It was a bit strange.
Admittedly, I didn't mind Tunstall coming in. I thought he was largely okay.
I thought it was pretty good in that first half. He faded.
Yeah.
He faded as a lot of the guys did in the last half. But I think maybe they were trying to take advantage, quote unquote, of Collingwood's ageing list and keep a number of players running through the midfield, and that's why we had so many available options to go through there. Maybe in the end it disrupted our midfield because, Will Ashcroft had a stinker. It was that
was probably Will Ashcroft's poorest game he's had for the Lions.
Yeah. There was a few that were well below par. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think when it got to three-quarter time and it was the way that it was, I felt like they didn't need to put Marshall on the field. Even though he did some nice things.
He did, but it just felt like that is just an insult. It's like, well, here you go. You've got freedom to do basically whatever you want. No one's going to care if you make a blue here. But at the same time, it's like, well, here's your debut. We're down 8 goals to Collingwood on Easter Thursday. Have fun, kid.
Yeah, and I was, people again were harsh on the idea of the sub, and I don't like it. No one likes it, but, it's a hard team to crack into, and maybe should have waited a week and done it this week and had him play the full game, or done it the week after. It doesn't seem like it'll be overly relevant, or not a fun debut. You can't imagine. So
yeah, he ended up playing the full game in the twos the next day as well. So plenty of football under his belt now. So he'll hopefully be rich of the experience. He ended up playing pretty well on the Friday. So. Yeah, not an ideal debut, but still getting your Guernsey presented to you by Southern Black is something I'm sure he won't forget.
Same number, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. So joining a list of classic number 20s.
Yep.
So aside from that, how much do we really want to go through this game? Because I think the minute by minute is largely going to be painful. It also happened about 5 days ago.
Yeah, it is. So. It's a bit of a tough one. We're sitting here on a Sunday night. This game happened Thursday. We can talk about a few players, their impact, if you like.
You were at the game?
I was at the game, yeah.
How was the atmos?
It was good. For the first half, it was good. It was a sold-out crowd. Obviously, lots of Collingwood supporters there. There was a bit of argy-bargy on the field. There's some questionable umpiring, of course, across the night. They got the crowd involved to the point where there was, bullshit. I think when McStay went into the goalpost and they got that free kick out of the square for that. So there was definitely...
As stated, still not seen a replay of that. So.
Oh, really? They showed a few replays at the ground?
I did hear that, but they didn't show any on the broadcast. So,
really? That is strange.
No. And they also... Well, I mean, they showed McStay kicking the goal on replay, but you didn't see the goal live, and then it was just like him getting the ball from the umpire and kicking it through. And it was like,
sure.
Well, what's that for? I know we cannot blame the umpiring.
No.
But when they get a 77-metre penalty, that's kind of a bit much.
That was huge.
there.
And my understanding was that they changed the interpretation of that. So when a player feigns a handball and the player on the mark sort of moves, that
was the Dane Zorko, Jack Higgins example.
Yeah, I thought they made that so that wasn't a 50, that the stand rule sort of was exempt in that aspect, and that's exactly what happened. And then it was an almost 80-meter penalty. There was the double 50.
I've heard interesting stuff as well, where allegedly if you bounce the ball whilst running on your 50-meter, that counts as play on, and Josh Daicos did.
Sure.
And then he obviously got the other one for which, but 77 meters.
That's silly.
I said last week that the umpires are making life hard for themselves by focusing on the wrong things, and kind of like there was a moment I think Eric Hipwood might have been lining up to kick around the corner, and they were like, he's trying to do his set shot routine and stuff, and they move him like 30 centimeters, and they all got there and were like, move here and stand there, back there. Yeah. And it's like, just let the dude kick the ball. It's him being literally here and people watching, or being here, doesn't really matter within the context of the kick. But to kind of stop everything and be like, sort that out, it's like, maybe learn how far a meter is. 77 of them. Like, learn how far. You've literally got reference points all over the field. The fact that 4 umpires cannot figure that out, to have a guy going from the back defensive wing to inside 50. The Gabba's not that short. It's not that field that had 45-meter arcs, SCG back in the day, or wherever it was, Olympic Stadium, I can't remember. Like, it's just, it's like the umpires need to be like uninstalled and reinstalled with new software. Like, they need a complete wipe of their memories, but that didn't cost us a game, albeit it was frustrating because they got, that one, they got the McStay one, they got DeGoey initiating contact against Jared Berry, which got them a shot on goal. Like, there was just stuff all over the place where it's like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, they spanked us regardless, so it's not going to come down to poor umpiring. But at the same time, it doesn't help. It's like, come on, give us a break here. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, and we got smacked. So we're going to have to deal with that. And I don't know what that means in terms of team selection. If that's, Fags isn't one to overreact and go, that's it. You, and you are all dropped, and these guys are coming in. But yeah, Hipwood I thought was good across the day. Noah Answorth was probably our best on. Bobby Hill got a slimy goal at the very end that he pulled out of his ring. Whatever, that's going to happen. Other than that, he was basically ineffectual, Bobby Hill, across the night, I thought. So Sam Day was fine. It was probably one of his better games without still being fantastic. But it really was a game where I did find myself sitting there going, I miss Joe. I
don't think Joe would have made much of a difference, buddy.
No,
I'm
probably
going to be perfectly frank with you.
Probably not, but, our inside 50s was low, and we are one of the worst in the competition of efficiency inside 50s at the moment as well. And I know that does come down to change of personnel. Like, Kai Lohmann hasn't been there. He's been in and out. Charlie Cameron is stinking it up at the moment, and Logan Morris is hot and cold, Hipwood's hot and cold, McLaughlin's in and out, so Day's new to the system, so all that is playing a part. But when our efficiency inside 50 is past at the moment, and then our inside 50 count is disgusting as well, 37 for the match, you're going to make it hard on yourself. And I found, like, we were sitting there during the third quarter, I was like, we've kicked 5 goals, and that's not us. We ended up with 7, and, you know, I've spoken before on the show, we're letting in big scores, and that's another one.
That is probably the most alarming thing. We've had such a tight defensive group and defensive cohesion over the past couple of years, and that's really letting us down quite a bit because we were able to rely on that to keep us in games.
Yep.
And that's sort of more or less what's happened, because even if you go back to the 9 in a row we won before GWS and Collingwood last season, our defense was so pivotal in terms of keeping us in games. And if you take that stretch of 9 and then the GWS Collingwood ones, which probably were games we shouldn't have lost, all things considered, we gave away large leads. Then you take the next 10. This is the first game we've not been in and we've ultimately lost. So it's a very unfamiliar sort of situation, which isn't to say that there were universes where we lost against GWS in the finals and stuff like that. But it's just a very foreign position to be in, and the defense let themselves down. The midfield let the defense down. The forward line did what they could with the meager level of entries. So it's really a bit of a difficult one to point the finger at.
It is. And it's stark contrast to last year where we were not getting the results on the board. You know, what we were 2 and 5, as we know, 0 and 3, and all that sort of stuff. But the stats were good. Like, the stats were showing that of a top 4 team, whereas now we're a top 4 team results-wise, but our stats are all mid-table at best for a lot of them. And as I said, efficiency inside 50 down near, like, the real bottom end. So I've got a feeling this is going to even out over the next 5 weeks, perhaps.
I think the old Chris Fagan bringing up the stats on the bye is kind of going into folklore from last year. And whilst I don't disagree that it happened, I think there were a lot of people, you know, us included, that thought that there were probably deeper issues and that statistically things were looking okay, but we probably weren't in as good a position as what, you know, turned out we were. So it's hard to really know because, I mean, the eye test and the stat test are kind of two different things, different sides of the same coin, or whatever you want. But I think, you know, when you're putting wins on the board, that's okay. And 5 and 1 at this time of the year, I would have taken it. I don't know about you.
Absolutely. And, you know, this was our 5th game in 33, 34 days. A lot of them in extreme heat, different, you know, various weather conditions, interrupted preseason, all that sort of stuff. 9-day break has come at the right time, I think, because... well,
they can treat it almost as a mini bye at this point in time.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably pretty important for them. Because you can imagine they would have structured the season, the idea of playing opening round and then having a bye in round 3.
Yep.
So, you know, mentally to kind of recalibrate yourself. And I'm not saying that, you know, professional athletes can do it and they should be able to do it, but maybe... The high performance group had planned on that, and because it changed around, they're just kind of making the best. And, you know, I liked the idea that, particularly last week, with the whole Adelaide Oval Norwood situation, Fagan's like, oh, we'll play anyway, we don't mind, we're not precious about it. So they won't complain. Definitely not overtly to the media or anything like that, but I think they probably had a bit of a rough start to the year. So this week should be good.
Yeah, I mean, as we speak, the Saints are playing right now, and they're about 10 points down to the Dogs. No spoilers, people. So they'll have a 6-day break compared to our 9. So that will come into it. We've got the extra travel, obviously, going down to Melbourne, so that will play into it a little bit as well, as we discussed last week. But, you know, a 5-day break into a 9-day break, like I said, it's come at the right time. Charlie Cameron. His last 18 months haven't been fantastic by his standards. And, you know, he's getting older, so we can't expect him to do all the electrifying stuff that we know, or we were used to him doing 4 or 5 years ago. But his last month in particular, and Thursday night, really, really quite poor. And if you ask me right now, and if Kai Lohmann was fit, I would say you bring him in for Charlie Cameron.
it just depends on how it kind of operates with the structure. Yeah, because we seem to almost be one short in the inside forward 50 because it was sort of pretty bolted on with who was playing there. But whether they've changed structurally, like Zach Bailey's playing inside 50 a bit more. But oh god, the cat's just jumped in. But it's weird. I don't know what's going on because we kicked 17 goals in an intra club when the Cyclone weekend or something like that, 9 goals in a quarter or something. It just seems like he's not doing the simple things very well. You know, he was always had a really nice touch. He was, great handballer. His infield kicking and his field kicking was always really good. And that just seems to have, the amount of times you see him butcher passes, he's trying to do the right thing, trying to put people in the right positions, but they just are not working. His pressure is still there.
Yep.
But, and maybe that's just the thing you got to look at and go with that and hope that, that's there. So if he can turn it on at some point in time, then that's a bonus. So what are your thoughts?
It's a tough one. Like, his form is just really quite poor at the moment, and Fags admitted as much after the game. His set shot was shaky last year. You said a couple of weeks ago it had improved. He did kick a couple, but then last week against the Dogs, he sprayed them, and then this week, Thursday, he... even those around the corner ones, you back him in. Even if he's missing the drop punt set shots... the around the corner, you go, well, this is the one he'll get because this is what he does. And he
that's what was happening last year, is where he didn't kick those ones. It was like the first half of the year he didn't kick a set shot.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable last year. So, and then I think he drilled one from 50, in some random game. But yeah, his form with the around the corner ones is just not there. And it was a bit of a blight. And I understand that our inside 50 entries were kind of giving us difficult shots, but Kalachi missed a couple, Hipwood missed one from either side, albeit they were both difficult shots. Charlie Cameron missed, and it's like, you'd think they'd probably kick 2 or 3 of those. We saw what Kalamachi did last week.
Yeah.
And not the case. And if you're kicking 3 or 4 more goals, and this is in the first half, you're staying in the game longer, then maybe things change, sliding doors moments, as fuckwit Barrett would say.
It was very similar to last week at halftime, where I thought, okay, well, if our midfield can step up a bit, we were back in this, but they just didn't. And as I said, Daicos was just free to do whatever he liked. Pendle's just... It's amazing what he can do at his age and the amount of space he can find himself in. His ball use was actually quite poor on Thursday. I thought he turned it over a fair bit in the first half, but still found a lot of it and made things work, and side bottom the same. It was crazy.
I found side bottom's speed of leg to be really odd, fast.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
I don't remember him ever being particularly fast. He's sort of more He's like a crab where he just can move in any direction reasonably okay, so you can never tell where he's going. But he was burning young people.
Yeah.
I don't know how he's doing that. Daicos was really good. He was just sort of... It didn't seem to matter what was... There were times where O would win the tap and he would batter it forward, and there he was. Or the ball would drop in the middle and there he was. It's what?
We didn't pay him any respect. At the start of the game, Dunks lined up alongside him, but then the next stoppage, Neil would be on him, and then the next stoppage, it'd be McCluggage, and he just didn't have... It was like we just backed ourselves to go head-to-head. And there's merit in that. I get that, because, we have got one of the best midfields in the competition, but when it is getting out of hand, and it did get out of hand, and then obviously Berry went to him for a quarter, and... everything else just went to shit. So it was all right, well, it's too late. Abandon ship. We're just going to have to do what we're going to do now. So, he was phenomenal. And, I don't want to be... I hate as much as the next person the amount of, Nick Daicos dick riding that there is out there, but, he is very, very good at football. He doesn't carry on like a dickhead like Harley Reid. He never has. He speaks well off field. He's, Yeah, I get it.
I reckon he'd throw some pretty pathetic chat on field.
Probably, but
Just
he doesn't, whatever. Who cares when you're getting
Yeah.
38 touches and being the best player in the comp, arguably.
I just mean it would be I reckon it would be really not kosher compared to, some of the
maybe.
stuff. But I don't know. I want to know how you can get your ear holes tanned. Because, that doesn't seem quite right to me. But, is what it is. He's got tans in all the wrong places for, how someone should tan. So read into that what you will.
Look, at the end of the day, they were far superior. Far superior. Basically
absolutely,
everywhere.
yeah.
So, credit where it's due. They killed it. So, good on them. And we've got to move forward. But VFL was good. That was a good game of footy.
Did you watch it? Because I certainly didn't.
I watched a bit over half. I was in and out, doing Easter activities with the little fella across the weekend, but I did try and catch as much as I could. Ty Gallop was really, really good across the day. 4 goals, including some silly goals. McLaughlin kicked a ridiculous goal in the first quarter as well. Marshall was good. Dev Robb was back in the midfield with Tunstall being out. So Dev Robb was back in the midfield, had a great game. I guess everyone was looking for Henry Smith this week to see if he could back up that performance, and out with concussion
He
again.
did in some way. Did in some way. Backed it up with a bonk on the head.
That's that sucks. He's, when you're right on the precipice, you're pressing your case, and then you get knocked out a couple of, weeks in a row. That is, and who knows, he might have another month or so off now. And, a la Starcevic if he's getting repeat concussions, but piss poor timing.
Yeah. There's not much you can do about that.
Tom Duday got through again, was okay, was all right. Not setting the world on fire. Probably same for him. He wants to put together a month of really good footy because I hate to say this, Froggy's a little bit down on form at the moment, the last 2 weeks. I've got no doubt he'll back himself next week, and he'll get on, Caminiti or something probably next week and redeem himself, or Sharman or something like that. But yeah, Tom Duday, he's getting through. He's not doing any knees, so that's basically all we can ask for at the moment. But Fergus McFadgen is probably the talk. 5 goals, including the winning behind after the siren, so that's great for him. No chance.
I wonder if he'll mind that he was 5 straight up until that last kick, and then
probably not.
5, the best behind he's ever kicked, I guess.
100%.
Yeah.
Other than that, who else? Darcy Ford had a really great game, actually. I thought he was really good. Jack Manley, just a VFL. Luke Beacon looked alright across the day. He had some really good moments, actually. Reece Torrent is getting a few more midfield minutes. He's doing right. Connor McKenna looked alright across the day as well, so he might be pushing himself towards senior selection over the next couple of weeks, depending on how things go. Other than that, no one else to really write home about. Shadowbrain played alright as well, but he's moved back in the pecking order with all these halfbacks that we've got sort of vying for a position.
Yeah. It's good to get a win for those guys.
Yeah.
At least they have something to celebrate. So, but yeah, did you want to try and string together some votes?
Yeah, let's try and string together some votes for Hop on Brewery Tours. Book yourself a half for a full day tour with Matt and Joss at hoponbrewerytours.com.au. A really difficult game to vote for because there was only a few worth it, I thought. I thought Answorth was our best on, so I've given him the 3. Hipwood the 2 for me. And I have thrown Lockie Neal the 1, but that could have very easily been Oscar McInerney as well. I liked Oscar's game.
Yeah, I'm just going to give Rayner the 1, just so that, because he tried to line up Daicos, and it was a pretty good hit. So,
it was, yeah.
That's all we'll talk about it. We won't say anything more about it.
The crowd definitely appreciated the replay of that one.
Yep. So he'll get my 1 and then the same 2 and 3. So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was a good hit from Rayner. I mean, I know, I'm sure neutral fans would have appreciated it as well. But what I will say is, he got straight back up, got the ball, set up a scoring play. Daicos did, so he's going to have the last laugh on that one. As he will a lot
I still
of
think he
others.
took a micro nap waiting for a whistle.
He did, yeah, of course. But I wouldn't want to get lined up by Cam Rayner. That would have hurt.
Well, Jason Johannisen took it like a man back in 2019. So,
all right. Well, those are our votes. Changes, considering everything that's gone on with the seniors and the twos. The 9-day break, as I said, has come around at the right time. Get some rest into some people. But that Kai Lohmann comment has really thrown me, and I wish I knew if he was just referring to the Gabba, because it's obviously going to be a couple of weeks since when we're at the Gabba, or if he was genuinely saying, "Oh no, I'm a couple of weeks away." So if he's right to go, he's in. It probably will be for Tunstall or Marshall, obviously. And I don't know about anyone else.
yeah, I just don't know whether they're going to change much, because Henry Smith won't be able to come into unless they bring Ford in for Day. But I think it was probably I think it was Day's best game for us.
Yep.
He probably should have had more goals. I think he one absolutely robbed, which Rayner ended up kicking, but so be it. He still moves so slow though, doesn't he?
He does.
It's like painfully slow. But I think Lohmann comes back in whenever he's ready to come back in. And aside from that, I hope Marshall does get the opportunity to play a game. I
wouldn't mind if Tunstall got another game. I thought he was pretty good in that first half. He got himself in the right position. Was fairly handy with the ball. He's put on a little bit of size. And he's been blitzing it in the twos for a while now. That midfield is really centred around him as an inside. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a second game. It would be, Marshall as well. How do you judge him off 10 minutes of footy in a blowout? When he did get the ball, he used it fairly okay.
The thing that I find it hard is we've got sort of two similar players. If Tunstall's trying to predominantly play inside, if Tunstall wasn't there, does Ashcroft have as poor a game?
Well, that's it. That's what I meant at the start when we're having that many midfield rotations. Is it disrupting it rather than adding to it? So that's a tough one. And Levi still hasn't had that much inside mid time, and I thought he was really good across the day. Actually, Levi. He was
much better, and probably could have gotten a vote, pinched a vote.
Yeah, he's had two really good weeks actually, Levi.
Yeah, and I think he was pretty good. It's just hard when the team tend to play pretty garbage. They played pretty garbage. I think Oscar kicked a couple of goals, but Darcy Cameron was far the better ruckman. So he's not in a great stretch of form, I don't think, at the moment.
I thought he was all right.
Yeah, but no, it's different to last year where he just sort of did stuff and stuff happened. Whereas this year it's sort of more not quite. It's the luck isn't there for at the moment. So, and that's kind of all you can call it when you're kicking the ball in stages and it's barreling forward. So, I just think he's not been. There were times last year where he was close to our best player in quite a few games, and he would turn the momentum when we needed it, and that's just not quite happening at the moment, which is fine. You can't expect it all the time, but to have. I mean, I said it before. If there's this many players that are just in slight little dips of form, and we're still 5-1, that's pretty good. It's pretty good. So, still taking it. But changes. I don't think they're really, other than Tunstall coming out, potentially Lohmann going back in, and maybe Brucey as a sub. I like Brucey as a sub, so
I do too. I'd be keen to give Marshall another run just to see what happens. Well,
I'd say maybe put Marshall in for Tunstall, and then Brucey as a sub would be. I'd like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Lohmann if he's ready. I doubt.
Yeah, if Lemon comes in, then it'll push everyone back down.
Yeah,
so
I doubt Fags is going to drop Charlie Cameron because you do have it in the back of your mind that he can switch it on at any given moment and kick 5 and do something magic. But yeah, those are getting fewer and far between. Those 4 or 5 goal games that Charlie Cameron has had.
It's been a while, more than a season, I think.
Yeah,
I mean, I did talk last week about the idea of it being our avenues to goal are plentiful, unless everyone is playing like garbage and then they're non-existent. So, but there, we had enough avenues to goal to be more in that game than we were. So, only got ourselves to blame. Shall we move on to something less depressing, like questions?
No.
Tipping, because tipping has been horrendous.
Let's go to tipping. I didn't solicit for any questions this week because I thought we'd have enough to talk about, and I didn't want to filter through Hipwood's a dickhead, sack Fagan. I didn't want to have to filter through rubbish this week, so I didn't solicit for them because I knew this was going to be tough enough chat as it was. So I do apologise to everyone, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't get in touch with the show. We did get an email from Steve, actually, who I believe is the same fellow that sent through that voicemail about Jake, the snake, the tipper.
Jake the Snake Roberts.
I don't know about Roberts, but the tipper.
Yep. So anyone will notice that I posted something on the Discord.
Yes.
Which was that Senor Snake tipped Collingwood. Now I didn't like that. Obviously, I understand this is his thing that he tends to do.
It's called hedging.
But I'm half inclined to, and I got to say this: people in the tipping competition, you are lucky that the guy sitting over there is in control of the admin, because I would have kicked anybody that tipped Collingwood out of this competition out of spite. So just be thankful, I guess. So he got his tip, the bastard. All
right, well, so far I'm sitting on 2 this week. I got Carlton and Essendon, and only just got Essendon. I
cannot believe that you drank my North Melbourne Kool-Aid so that we can actually wallow in this, because I'm also on 2, but it's a conditional 3 because the doggies are up. So,
well, what was the other? Do you pick Adelaide or Port?
I did pick Adelaide.
Well, there you go.
What were the ones that you got, sorry?
I got Carlton and Essendon.
Oh, you did pick Carlton?
I did pick Carlton.
You lied to me. You said earlier on that you tipped North Melbourne.
I said I thought I might have, but looking at it.
Right, okay. Well,
I did remember that North got...
I retract the Kool-Aid statement because obviously I just didn't listen. No, I tipped Adelaide and I tipped Essendon.
Sure.
And I'm gonna turn over a new leaf here, and I'm gonna start tipping with my brain, it's a horrible round to do it because I don't think anyone's had a good round of tipping. But
well, as we speak, there's still 2 games, one going on at the moment, and Geelong Hawthorn tomorrow on Easter Monday as well.
And I think we've tipped opposites in both of those, right? Because you've tipped Hawthorn.
No, I've tipped the Cats.
Oh. Your words last week were, I don't think Hawthorn will lose 2 games in a row.
I know, and then I clicked Geelong.
See, this is what This is the first round I didn't change any of my tips.
Well done.
Because I seriously considered changing to Richmond last night.
Did you really?
I was at... Yeah, well, because I was at... So my partner's mum's a Richmond fan.
Sure.
And we were watching with her. She's in the tipping competition, and she changed to Richmond. She nearly convinced me to.
Wow.
That was quite a fun game to watch because they're just happy to be there. So... and I would be willing to say that fewer people tipped, and this is not like this makes perfect sense. Fewer people would have tipped Richmond than they would have tipped Collingwood.
Oh yeah, for sure.
In our tipping, because there were about 11, and I don't like it. Tip the other guys if it's not Collingwood. But yeah, is what it is.
All right, well, let's look ahead.
Am I going to do next week's one?
Yeah, let's look ahead to round 7, even though there's still 2 games left in this one. All right, you got Melbourne and Richmond on Anzac Eve at the MCG, both coming off big wins to these guys.
Well, I'm going to tip Richmond because I don't think that Harrison Petty's got it in him to kick 4 goals again.
Sure.
And let's go the margin by... Oh, man, my margin got brutalised this week because I tipped the Lions by like 38 or something like that. So let's go 4. I have to key that in manually. 4-point win by the Tigers.
All right, Collingwood Essendon Anzac Day traditional game.
Collingwood are getting there because isn't like Draper dead or something?
Yeah, they got no. Todd Goldstein's going to have to ruck.
The corpse of Todd Goldstein.
Yes.
All right, well, they're in trouble. Freo and Adelaide.
It's a tough game. It's over at Optus.
This is a minefield one.
Yeah.
Minefield because Fremantle were terrible. I mean,
and Adelaide were really good.
Yeah, what was going on with that game and the low scoringness of it all? I'm tipping Adelaide.
Yeah, I'm tipping Adelaide as well, but I'm not feeling fantastic about it. Got to back the Lions in to bounce back after a 9-day break. Port Adelaide on a bit of a roll at the moment.
Port Adelaide getting my tip. North Melbourne will probably win.
I wouldn't have thought so, mate. They look horrible at the moment.
I know, but bear with me here because collectively I think North Melbourne and Melbourne, I've tipped them or not them, and they've cost me a lot.
Sure.
So, GWS get the Chockies. Gold Coast.
They got a good record against the Swans as well.
Geelong, I can tip against Carlton properly now, and Hawthorn.
I think we are. I think we're in alignment there. I may tip Melbourne. I may go back to Melbourne.
So Melbourne and I think Adelaide and Fremantle are the two 50-50s.
Yeah, so I'm on Adelaide at the moment, but I don't feel good about it. And I'm on Richmond at the moment, and I'm fairly certain I'm going to flip that to Melbourne. Yeah.
Well, who's leading at the moment?
Let's have a...
Also, I don't think you read that email from that guy. We got super sidetracked.
Oh, because it wasn't really... There was nothing to read. It was a YouTube link of a ballet dancer saying, "This is Nick Daicos." There you go.
Well, fair enough.
Zach Attack is still in the lead. Same fella from... Ned R. Zach Attack 33. Ned R currently in the lead on 39. With a... the round 6 margin. They tipped Brisbane by 68 points. Jeez.
Yeah, look, I'm not having a great... I'm about 9 off top, aren't I? So now that's where I turn it on. I've decided to have my weird form slump, and we're off now.
How many players? How many players we got in here at the moment? 106.
Maybe 105.
106 we've got.
Good, impressive.
Yeah.
And we would lose 10 of them if I had my way.
Well, you don't, so we're in the competition at the moment. All right, well, that brings us to your favourite segment, the wheel.
Yep. Now, I got to admit, I got absolutely a shellacking from my brother about this last week.
Oh, really?
He was like, dude, he was our main ruckman for 5 or 6 years. And I was like, man, I was 5. I don't remember. He didn't have red hair. He didn't have blonde hair. He wasn't Daryl White. Of course I didn't remember him. I'm sorry, dude. So he told me that I should be researching players just on a whim that they might turn up.
Sure. Well, there's a lot.
I didn't. I told him he was insane, and it was an insane group of messaging. So it's insane.
Time for the wheel. Thanks to Crisp Communications. crispcomms.co is the website if you want to get some marketing for your business. And of course, they are giving you the free Brisbane Lions Fancast stickers. You can order them through our website, brisbanelionsfancast.com.au. Is it your turn or my turn to...
Me first, please.
All right. And you get to pass or choose.
Because there's no way that I would have not skipped on.
You got the big O.
Yeah, we'll take the big O.
You'll take the big O?
Yep.
Okay. All right. You got Oscar McInerney, which means I have to put up against it Chris Johnson.
Well,
this is a good one because we've got a genuine, premiership star, Fitzroy legend, Hall of Famer, and the recency bias of Oscar McInerney, who sadly is not a premiership player.
Yeah, well,
And
I was going to
say that.
Given that some of the mess that's in there, you've like Chris Johnson is a spanner in the works here, because this is not going to work for me, because you can't say, oh, he's the best player not to have won a premiership in this list, because Chris Johnson's won 5 and he also ended international rules. So
that's right.
That's going to be the biggest blight on him. Shit, man, I get screwed by this every week.
I mean, no.
I hate this segment, and I loathe that you enjoy my discomfort.
You should be able to put together an argument for Oscar McInerney, who is genuinely one of all Brisbane Lions fans' favourite blokes and players.
Yes. Well, okay, so if
you play this right, you can get the win. It's going to be hard.
Oh, I would vote for Chris Johnson. But anyway, so I'll take you back to 2018 preseason, where I went down to, I think it was Cooperoo at the time, to watch an intra-club, and Steph Martin was our number 1 ruck at the time, and this gigantic gangled creature was up against him rucking out for the twos. And it was at the time, I think, like in the midfield we had like Mitch Robbo and Zorko and Beams, and then in the other side it was McCluggage, Berry, and Cam Rayner was floating in, but might have been like Corey Lyons or something like that at the time.
Oh.
And Oscar McInerney absolutely towed up Steph Martin that whole game. And the young fellas got first to the ball and they made the midfield look like a bunch of dimwits. That game's also famous for Tom Bell and some other Jack Frost getting into a fight on the sideline.
Jeez.
And Jacob Allison splitting his head open. So that was a fun time. And from then I was like championing the Big O the whole time. I was like, because I've never been the biggest fan of Steph Martin. I thought there were issues with his game, but this is not about Steph Martin. So I'll probably get him next week. So I was always very confident that O would come in and would be a very good ruckman for the club. And he came in 2019. I remember him kicking a couple goals against North Melbourne at the first game I went to in Victoria, down at Marvel against North Melbourne. Made me happy. It was really good. And then from then he's become an absolute cult hero for the club, and then he's been more widely recognised by people in the AFL as just a pretty awkward, efficient, effective ruckman who's, as I said, is in a bit of a form slump at the moment. And his vocalization was the catalyst for some of the big movements we made last year, and they honoured him. The Guernsey was up as they were running out, and I don't know, he's the ultimate team man, and I think he's won the Team Man award in multiple years, and rightly so. But comparing to Chris Johnson,
you don't need to say that. This is my turn to say why Chris Johnson should win. I mean, you didn't even mention the Christmas tree farming gear, the just his general antics, behaviour, demeanour on prelim night, and of course grand final day. Nathan.
Oh yeah, prelim where he popped his shoulder out twice. That was horrible.
Yeah,
made me really sad.
Ultimate team sacrifice there, and then I'll never forget. The interviews with Oscar after grand final, and he's just, it's going to be a big couple of days. I'll give you the good mail. Like, don't like, we're going to have some fun here. And then Nathan Buckley on the couch, following, or was it a couch or maybe means test afterwards? And he just had nothing but brilliant things to say about Oscar. He's like, I want to meet this guy. He seems like such a good bloke. Like, get him up here. I want to boof him. That sort of gear. That was, as I said, the 2 days, the 2 moments on grand final day that I'll always remember is Oscar and 40, embracing and celebrating, and Lee and Chris Fagan as well. And I think Oscar McInerney endeared himself to a lot of the wider AFL public on grand final day with the way he carried himself.
Yeah, it was remarkably different to some other players in the past that have missed out. So thank you for that assist. Now talk about the man that ended my favourite thing in the world, international rules.
Well, you mean that's triple premiership, two-time All-Australian Indigenous Team of the Century, Chris Johnson.
Game wrecker, mate. Game wrecker.
One of. Him and Campbell Brown did a nice little job together in ending that one. Probably one of the things I love most about Chris Johnson is, just such an unassuming position, a little back pocket that, probably the equivalent of today's Noah Answorth in the sort of way that he played his footy, much better footballer, much better ball user, but, one of the original Roy boys as well, that when they made the merger, and there was how many that came across from Fitzroy compared to the Bears?
I think there were two. Yeah. I think there was him and Primus maybe, but Primus might have not, and he might have gone to Port Adelaide, I think.
Jared Malloy was one of the ones that sort of did and didn't. Lynchy, he was a bit of both, really, obviously, but he was one of the, chosen that made the way into the merged entity, and, he probably thought about it at the time, considering his options, when Fitzroy dissolved and gone, well, I can stay here in Melbourne or make my way up to Brisbane, sit through a couple of shit years and then win 3 premierships. And as we know, one of the all-time greats, one of the more unheralded players from that whole premiership era of the early 2000s.
Don't forget that we did make a prelim final in 1996 before the merge, the old Bears.
Sure.
So, yeah. He's good. He always found himself inside 50 randomly and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Attack on the ball. Attack on the ball and attack on the player.
One of the great blokes, Chrissy Johnson. That's a good round. I like that, Oscar McInerney on Chris Johnson. That's certainly better than some of the.
I tell you what, I'm screwed when I don't have personal stories about these players and these things crop up, because you talk about floor and ceiling in this segment. My floor is extraordinarily low, but the ceiling is quite high.
When Justin Lepage takes your tiny teddies.
Yeah, well, also allegedly, bit of a cult hero on her own, but apparently my mum paid Chris Johnson's parking in his first session that he was up in Brisbane.
Well, there you go.
Didn't have any coins, so that one's in the myth of our family. I don't know. I mean, that one that's pulled out at Christmas occasionally, so
I like it.
I paid his parking, so lots of weird personal stories about those guys, but not about Clark last week.
Couple of things before we wrap this week's episode up and forget about Easter Thursday forever. 2 things. Noah Bolter, you reckon he should have played?
Nope.
Yeah, that's an easy one. And
the cheering of Noah Bolter was insane.
Look, I get it. As a Richmond fan, you got to stand by your players, stand by your team. Would I have done it? I don't know. Not being in the position, it seems silly. The man's going to court on Tuesday. You could have waited an extra week and he's pled guilty. But having said that, do they win that game without him? Is that more important than bashing a bloke at a pub? No.
I was on the street.
Yeah.
Have you seen the video?
Seen the video. I do remember when this story first broke, hearing the account from the bloke that got bashed. I think he's Washbrook, his last name was. Can't remember his first name. And the story he told was really strange. Like the way he worded it, he was just like, I just wanted to go to the pub and hang out with some 18-year-olds, and I get, it's happened to me again. I get bashed again. It sounds like this happens to him a lot. And this guy did not seem or sound like the sort of bloke that should be hanging out with 18-year-olds. It was a very strange story. I don't know the first thing about this bloke.
I don't think even as an 18-year-old I wanted to go and hang out with 18-year-olds.
I don't know the first thing about this bloke, so I'm not going to pretend to know. But yes, I mean, Noah's pled guilty. The footage looked very, very bad. But I'm sure there is a lot more context involved. But yeah, playing him was a silly, silly idea, and I think Adam Uze and Richmond were a bit pig-headed in that, and I think the AFL probably should have done more to stop it. Second one.
Well, funnily enough, I kind of tend to agree with Caroline Wilson in terms of the amount of suspended games. I think included preseason or something like that, and I just don't think that adds up.
Yeah.
You know, if someone gets done at the tribunal, they're not missing like the Wizard Cup, are they?
Yeah. No.
I know it's not called the Wizard Cup, but
Yeah.
you know, community series, that's not counting for a suspension. So, you know, next one.
Did you see this altercation with a Lear and a young Sydney fan today?
No, I did notice it. Do you want to pause and I will watch it and get back to it? Well, I've now watched it. I feel like the mum should have just belted the kid, but you know that's not the way that things are these days. Poor form. You shouldn't throw things at players.
No, I'm glad Aaliyah...
It's not 1996 WCW. Like, come on.
I'm glad Aaliyah sort of called him out and pulled him up on it, and that kid did look like he panicked himself a little bit after he did get called out on it. But it's a tough one. Do you reckon, given the... I mean, I don't know how old this guy is. 15, 16, something like that. Do you reckon they're going to come down hard on a penalty?
No comment. I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, you can't. Like, I feel like you can't ban a kid for life, but at the same time, you could just
No, but like a year.
put him on the second tier. Put him on the second tier.
Oh,
Don't
what,
let
get him better
sit at ground
seats?
level. Well, you know, front row in the stink zone. Like, probably loves that. So, give him better seats. That's not what I meant, you dickhead.
Get him a better view. Put him on the wing.
Centre wing. He could be a tactical mastermind in the future. You never know.
I doubt it.
This could change his life.
It could and it should, but not for the ways you're potentially suggesting there.
Yeah. No, that's no good. Apparently, Darcy hurt his knee.
Darcy.
Big Sean Darcy? Sam Darcy.
Oh, right.
Bulldogs Darcy. Gigantor.
Oh, no good.
Just says worrying scenes as Darcy hurts knee in sickening landing.
Ooh.
And if it's anything like the sickening landings that have involved like Mitch Lewis in the past.
No bueno.
So.
All right. Well, let's have a quick chat about the Saints and then we'll wrap things up for another week. They're playing generally okay footy this year. Few hits, few misses. As we speak at the moment, they are trailing the Bulldogs by a couple of goals, so that's still yet to be seen. No Max King, he's going to be out for God knows how long.
Ever.
Yes. But it's their halfbacks that are doing a lot of the damage at the moment. Sinclair and Wanganeen Milera. Playing very, very good footy at the moment. And we can surely expect Marcus Windhager will be making a beeline to Lachie Neale at the centre bounce.
That's fine. Good on him.
He's played well. He has played very well.
I know, but it's like the multi-headed dragon. Doesn't matter. Like our midfields should be good enough because I think it's a different kettle of fish to Collingwood. So, yeah, we look for hopefully Calamachi to do like a defensive job on one of two of them and then just some hard running back. I think we need to really just go back to basics in this one. And if we do, we should win. We tend to play Marvel pretty well and we tend to play them at Marvel pretty well. So
yeah,
I think we've beaten them in probably, I think the last 4 or 5 down there.
Yeah. Yeah, give or take.
At least the last 3. I could even go back to 2019 where Charlie Cameron kicked like 1 billion goals. So we might not have lost to them in 7 years down there. So
I'm sure there's been
we
a
should
lot
do all right.
Obviously, a new addition to their midfield, Jack McRae, your mate, who's playing pretty good footy this year.
Yeah, he's playing better footy than I've ever seen him play. So I think, reacquainted with Dunkley, see how that goes. Jack Steele still knocking about, or is his shoulders given up?
No, he's still playing. He's not exactly blowing the competition wide open at the moment. Zach Jones is still playing okay footy. Liam Henry's back in that side. Jack Higgins obviously kicked a few goals in us last year up at the Gabba. I think he ended up with 4 or 5. So
yeah, we had that weird one mid-year where we beat them by 20 points, but it was like a high-scoring affair up there,
Yeah,
and then we dusted them by 80 points. You tipped the margin.
Yeah, that's right.
You were expecting it to be like 40 to 60, but it was
right.
stupid. So, yeah, I
Answorth to Higgins.
we should. Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, we're better than them. I think they're overachieving, and I think we're under. Well, they're overperforming, and I think we're underperforming.
Yep.
And I think they're kind of hybrid mid-sized forwards. Like Froggy should play pretty well if he's on Owens or whoever's there, because they'll have Caminiti and Sharman, the two big boys. Caminiti could try and do a defensive job on Harris.
They're probably
or he could swing if they need it. So yeah, I think we probably. I mean, I know I said that we match up well against Collingwood last week, but I don't know whether St Kilda match up super well against us.
No,
because we should beat them in the contested game, and they don't quite have the spread that Collingwood do. So
yeah, well, it remains to be seen. Like I said, I've said it a couple of times now. The 9-day break has come at the right time, and hopefully give the guys a chance to recover properly, get a bit of rest, put in a full week of training, and set sail.
what did you make of some of the stuff between Waterman talking about West Coast not knowing how to train at AFL standard, and there was someone else saying that they didn't have it maybe the fellow that came from Richmond?
Yeah, Jack Graham saying it was a bit eye-opening going over there because Richmond have an extra day of training, generally speaking, each week, whereas West Coast would have to dedicate it to travelling more often than not. And, he's saying it's hard for them to get up to speed quick when you're losing a day of training. And Jake Waterman saying, I think what we are doing is okay, but definitely could be better, all that sort of stuff. It's
there's almost one was talking about the frequency and one was talking about the quality of the training, which is not a great indictment on the whole thing.
No.
On the whole?
No. They're in a world of hurt, West Coast, and if what's to be believed of Harley Reid, more likely than unlikely to leave, and especially the way he's carrying himself, that's only going to set them back. I don't know if you remember, but I think it was in our first year of podcasting where I said, like, West Coast's turmoil is just beginning. Like, it's about to get so much worse. So, but yeah, I do think if they try and nab a priority pick, good luck to them. No, they're not going to. There's no way the AFL can allow that, because they did it to themselves.
Yeah, I don't think the AFL will allow it, but also some of the stuff they did with North Melbourne, the AFL, that Laura Kane was involved in, is sort of strikes me a bit insider trading. But
North's
they
a
can ask.
situation.
I don't think the AFL will say no. Sorry?
North's a different situation. Like, West Coast won a flag recently enough, and then they sold the farm to get Tim Kelly. So they did it to themselves.
Yeah. Well, I mean, North Melbourne, the idea of them having, 6 first-round picks in one draft was just, like, insane.
Yeah.
Because we saw, when you do that properly, what Richmond can do and kind of fast-track what's going on. So
yeah, but it was conditional, wasn't it? Where they got the picks, but they had to trade X amount of them or something like that. That was how it all worked. Or?
Yeah. So, it was I think they were able to trade 3 of them.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Which just gave them. But I think what they did is they might have traded like them for futures. So it was the same anyway. So, but I don't know. It's kind of stuff. We got like 1 priority pick in 10 years, and we got negative 12 picks from all of the GWS Gold Coast guys a draft.
Yeah, good stuff.
Oh well. I have no sympathy for these hot messes.
No, it's hard to feel too sorry for them. All right, that'll wrap things up for this week. A piss week of football, but it has to happen every now and then. And we'll be back. We know how to win games of footy, so I look very much forward to recording the next episode where we're on higher terms.
You sound a bit sick. Are you a bit sick?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Sickly Brooksy.
It's good.
Farewell.
anyone watching on YouTube will know that I've been, off mic to cough every now and then across the night as well. So that's just how we go.
Poor fella. Oh, well, feel better. And hopefully we can turn this shit around.